Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and thank you so much for being a YouTube member. We really like that you're a member, and we wanted to look at the comments that you guys have been sending in and really give you something you're looking for. So the number one request was more sewing projects, and then within that people really wanted scrappy, so we came up with this really cute Apple Crumb placemat, and I'm going to show you how to make it today. It's a very easy. These would be great gifts for friends. You can make them for your house, and if this is something that you could make a whole quilt out of, you could make it. It's very interchangeable. You could make it larger. You could do so many things with it. And I think once you start the project, you'll kind of see all the possibilities that it has. So the member code for this month is O'Reilly Blake 15% off. So you can enter that coupon code, and the date it expires is in the description box. And I'm going to show you what we're going to be working with today. So because O'Reilly Blake is on sale, we are going to use a stitch jolly bar, and it's rolled, and inside that jolly bar is this free pattern. So if you don't want to make this, you can still make this. So free pattern in there. It's designed by Lori, and what I did is I took this jolly bar, unrolled it, and starched all my fabric first. So that's going to be your first step. And today we're using the double tumbler template. And on this template, there is a skinny side and a chunky side, and it's labeled. It's kind of hard to see, but we're going to be using the skinny side. And the placement layout is going to be, just so you can remember, 4 by 7. So you'll try to remember that. And we're going to be using a Lori Holt technique where we take everything, take the fabric from the back and pull it to the front. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to do this for the entire jolly bar, but what I think works best is 4 fabrics at one time. So these are all starched, and a jolly bar is a 5 by 10 inch rectangle, and cutting 4 at a time, that's a pretty good number. So it is starched, so because it's starched, it is not going to be exactly 5 inches anymore. But we only need 4.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is cut, I'm just going to put the 4.5, this is a 4.5 inch ruler just to make it easy so I don't have to think. And then I'm going to rotate my mat. And then I have a 4.5 inch rectangle. Now from here, I'm going to keep all the fabrics still together. I'm going to use the skinny side. It says skinny right here. And I'm going to line the bottom line up, and then the line right here, it's dotted. And you're going to line that there and just cut one side. And then this would we would just discard this. And then rotate your mat. This is when it's great to use a rotating mat. Cut the other side, and then you've got one triangle. Rotate your ruler, line up the bottom, and line up this, and you're going to get 3 from each fabric. And then this you would also discard, or you could cut like a 1 inch or 1.5 inch square fabric from it and put it in your scraps. So continue doing that on your entire jolly bar. And when you do that, you're going to have enough from one jolly bar to make 4 placemats. And we have it, this is a row, but there's 7 this way and then 4 this way. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to assemble one row right here so I can show you how to do it. But what we're going to do is we're going to still be using our ruler, and we're going to use a friction marker. and there are little holes in the ruler. And the friction pin does not work because it's not, it doesn't fit in the holes. So you can see here I've got 4 dots, and you'll see it more when you see it on the lighter fabric. And you're going to do this on all of these. And the friction, the ink will disappear, but you can see that the little dots. And what I would do is just do them all on the, I would just put them on my design board where I want everything, and then do your dots after. And technically, I mean, you could put the dot on the front or the back. I'm just putting it on the front, it's easiest. And you're going to use these dots for, when we're putting them together, it's going to give you that, where everything will line up. And of course, I could just rotate my ruler also. You can do it however you want. So I'm going to do this row first. And what I would do right now at home when I'm sewing, I would take a photo of this so that when you get back, you know where it goes and you don't have to really think. And we just made this scrappy, and we made it to where you don't need to add a background so that you can use a Jolly Bar. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to pin these together, and what I'm going to do is put them right sides together, and I'm going to put a pin where the hole is, or sorry, the dot, and then a pin where the dot is. Put that there, let it line up, and then pin. And do the same thing on the other. Now here, because it's on the right side, you could just connect the dots, but I prefer to use the pin method where I put the pin in the middle of the dot. I just feel like it comes out a little bit more accurate. And if you let your pin kind of stand up, you can pin. So we'll zoom in so you can see a little bit more detail, but I'm going to go ahead and pin a couple of these. So right sides together, and then I can see my dot right there. Put the pin in the dot. And this can be tedious, but I think taking the extra time to do this is going to make your rows come together nicely instead of just guessing where the fabric should be. And that's what's great about that ruler, is having the dots, because when you don't have the dots, I feel like it doesn't come out exact. Okay, this one, my little dot didn't come through. So I'm gonna have to, oh yeah, it did, I just didn't see it. It's like the same color as the fabric. Let me see. Okay, now I can tell where it is. It's the same color as the fabric, so I had a hard time seeing where it was. Okay, right there. And then, like I said, it's kind of like making it just stand up, make it go straight instead of like sideways. And then pin. And I am going to add a second pin. These are bias edges, and so I prefer to have that pinned just so it stays in place and doesn't move. So I'm just going in the dots, standing my pin up straight, pinning, or you can just eyeball it. Like you can just eyeball that those two go together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire board and I'm going to sew these 3 seams. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch foot and just start all the way on the end, go all the way to the end. I'm going to do these 3, and then when I'm sitting there, I am going to iron. I'm going to actually get up, iron, and then I'm going to repin, and I will probably have to redraw some of the dots if I iron on top of them. Now I'll try not to. So first is just do these 3 seams real quick. So I just have a 1/4 inch foot on the machine. If you're going to press this all the way open, I would stitch with a 1.5 stitch length. If you're going to press to one side, I would use like a 1.7 stitch length. So up to you. Pull the pins out right before you get to them. And then just cut those apart. From here, now you can either press these to one side or press open. I'm gonna just press open so I have less bulk. But if you want to, you can press like one row, one direction, the opposite row, another direction. Totally up to you, whatever you're most comfortable with. So set your seam. Whenever I press open, I do prefer to press to one side and then press open. That's just a personal preference. And then since I'm pressing open, I'll put the little clapper on there to get it a little bit flatter. And if you've never tried it, what's really awesome is if you have a whole quilt block done, say a really detailed quilt block with like half square triangles, flying geese, just a ton of points, and you put a couple of these on your block overnight and come back in the morning, you will be amazed at how flat it is. So from here, let's see, the pink was over here. It's like that. So I'll have to redraw the dots. And technically, I mean, you could have just done the whole row and then it wouldn't have mattered. But because there's so many seams here, I prefer to stop and press. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the whole row now so that we just go connect the whole row. So, and this quilt is really fun because you could just make it really big. This is something where you could cut all the pieces, give it to your kids, and they could lay it out how they want it. And it would give them kind of like fun building a quilt. And I would start with doing one row, get comfortable with this, and then go and do the other rows instead of doing all of them at one time. And then now there's 3 seams, and I'm just gonna sew those, and then we'll press, and then I'll show you how you put the rows together where everything will nest. So from here, I'm gonna set all 3 seams, press to one side, and then press open. So whenever I'm working with bias, you can see I moved my iron, but I'm not like moving it too much because I don't want that fabric to stretch. If you start moving your iron around on a bias edge, your block could get wavy. So from here, I went ahead and already sewed a second row, a third row, and a fourth row, and I joined these together. And what I'm going to show you here is how to pin these so that you get a nice row, and we're going to sew this and iron this, and then I'll show you one that's done. So what I'll do is put it right sides together. And again, like I said, I'm pressing open, but what you could do is you could press this one to the right, left, right, left, whatever you're most comfortable with. So just put right sides together. And then what I'm going to do is clip these little thingies off. These little like dog thingies. I think they're like dog ears or something. So there, now that that's clipped off, it's a little bit straighter. And what I do is right here, I want these to nest right here. Can we zoom in a tiny bit? And then you can just see that it's going to nest. Lay it right there, make sure it's nesting, and put a pin right there. Go to the next seam. Line it up, pin. And sometimes it's not going to come across completely straight, and it's fine, it's going to work itself out. It'll look fine when it's done. And then here, same thing, it's a little bit harder to get it to line up, but it will. It's just going to be harder to show you on this one, but it's lined up. It's just harder to show on camera on that one. But every intersection you want to pin, and you're just making sure your fabrics touch. So, and then the last one right here. And then from there, I'm going to add pins in the middle of the triangles. And then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way across and do that real quick. And then I'm going to look, and it's a little bit off. I've got some issues that I'm going to need to fix. So now I have enough out. What I'll do is put this in here, and I'm gonna pull really tight with this hand and get it flat so that pucker doesn't come back. And now the pucker's gone. So from here, we're going to set the seam. And then here you can press to one side or press open. I'm just going to press to one side once I get to this point. It's totally up to you. And then from here you would put it back on your design board, and it's totally scrappy. You might have fabrics near each other, you might not, totally fine. And then you're going to pin this row, basically do the same thing so that you have 28 total triangles. So 7 by 4, and that is going to look like this. And then from here, what I'm going to do, I love the By Annie Soft and Stable. I love this product. It is just so awesome because it's easy to quilt through, and it's really thick. It's gonna give your quilting like a puffy look, but it's going to stay really flat. So I'm using the project pack, and I'm just going to lay this on here nice and flat. And then I'm going to first cut the two sides. You can actually do it however you want, but I just wanted to get it a little flat. I'm going to add some pins, I think, when I'm done. But first, what I'm going to do is add this. Sorry, cut this, add this. So cut one side. And then you'll see when you're working with this how it really, just your fabric is going to kind of stick to it. And then from here, we're going to cut 1/2 inch from this intersection. So on the Creative Grids rulers, you can use either side. This side is a little bit harder to read, so I'm going to go to this side. And I want first to line up the top or the bottom, either one. And then I want this 1/2 inch line to hit the points right there and right there. And then, you know, just make sure that that's a 90-degree angle. So if you don't have that, then if it's curved, then you'll have a funny binding. And then from here, the same thing, either line up the top line or a bottom line, whichever one. And then you want the 1/2 inch mark to hit. And trim. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and put our backing on there. So this is our top with the project pack soft and stable. Now, you can take this rectangle. Basically, this is a little bit smaller than a fat quarter, but what you want your rectangle to be is about 2 inches on all sides. It doesn't have to be exact. So after you're done with this, measure it, and then add 4 inches to the width and length, and then you're going to center this as good as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to add a couple of pins. And you do want your backing to be ironed so that there's no wrinkles, because what we're going to do now is quilt. And you can quilt obviously as little as you want, as much as you want. I love the look of these little fabrics. So what I'm going to do is stitch 1/2 inch away, a quarter, 1/2 inch, wherever the line is on my walking foot, wherever it makes it easy, just an equal distance from here. And I'll just look at my walking foot to see what feels the best when I get to the machine. I'm not going to draw lines or anything. I'm just going to use the guides. And I'm going to increase my stitch length, and I'm going to test it out on, before I do it, I'm going to test it out on one of these little scraps right here to get the stitch length I want. And I guess you technically don't have to pin, because you might poke yourself, which that means I'm going to poke myself. But, you know, I just like to pin. And then once I've pinned, I'm going to just look at the back and make sure that, you know, I don't have anything like crumbled up or something like that. So it looks nice. But what I'm going to do is take this, put my walking foot on the machine, and then just look at the stitches and see if I want them long or short or, you know, whatever I want it to look. And the reason I'm doing it on this is it's the same thickness. If you just sewed on like a piece of fabric without the thickness, it's not going to look the same. So I'm going to actually just cut. I'm just going to make a smaller piece. So we'll go to the machine, and it's great to have the bed on your machine so that everything is nice and flat. And remove this foot, put the walking foot on. Now, sometimes I have to do this twice. Okay, now once I get my walking foot on, I am going to tighten it just because I don't tighten it when I use a regular foot, but I do on the walking foot. So I'm going to go to a 3.0 stitch and just see. And just see what my stitch looks like. And I actually like it. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it at 3.0. And what I meant about using the walking foot as a guide is I'm just going to put the left end right here on that seam. And I'm just going to stitch across. Now you want to start right on the edge, not any further away, because you're going to pull the backing to the front. So if you put a big seam out here, it's going to mess that up. So you need to be right on the edge of the quilt top. And I'm just going to stitch all the way across. Okay, when you get to the end, you want to end your stitch right at the very end, because if you keep stitching, you're going to see that in your binding. And then what I'm going to do is just flip this around and do the other side. And I'm just going to put my needle down right on the edge. And if you have a fancy machine that has a tack stitch, you could use that when you start in your stop. I am going to be cutting all these little threads off so that they don't end up on the top. And I will remove pins as I get that side done. And then here, you don't need to stitch on the edge. And then we'll just do the next ones. And then the easiest thing to do is put needle down and see where it's hitting. Okay, I'm a little bit off. Okay, so I was a little bit off there, but it didn't start, so let's see. Okay, so we can talk about quilting here. Now, I decided to only quilt right here because I feel like the fabric is really pretty, and I feel like if we started adding quilting like all throughout it, that the design would get lost or overbearing. But this is something where if you don't like to quilt, you could, you can't send it to your long arm quilter because you need it to be quilted exactly to the edge. So whatever you do, just make sure you're not quilting outside of this line. We have another video a couple years ago, and that tutorial is 100% instructional and shows you exactly how to get all the back folded. You basically trim and fold it to the front, and that's how you do it. And so from one Jolly Bar, you can get 4 placemats. Of course, you could do a really big quilt with this technique. You just need the ruler and a Jolly Bar. Now, if you wanted to make a really big quilt, of course, you could do start with a layer cake and cut 2 strips that are 4.5 inches wide. And just remember that we have a coupon code for this month. We thank you so much for being a member. We truly appreciate your support. The quilt right here, just so you know, that is the quilt you can make with the stitch Jolly Bar. If you don't want to make this, let all your friends know about the Apple Crumb video. Such fun, so many possibilities with this, and let me know in the comments what you think, and we're always trying to bring you what you ask for. So thank you again for being a member, and I'll see you in another video soon.